Ladies, I've gathered you all here today with my conclusion of Lord Quirk's death, or should I say, murder. As you are all aware, you are of course all suspects in this case, and all had your own good reasons to kill the victim. So firstly, Miss Scarlet, you were Lord Quirk's daughter. Do you want to share your motive with our group?
Well, yes, I did want to kill him. He was always mistreating Mother, slapping her, hitting her, accusing her of things I knew she didn't do. He was a disgusting, evil man, and I'm ashamed to call him my father. At least now Mother can rest, knowing he will never hurt her again. I often talk to people about hitting him over the head with one of my precious dolls.
Yes, but you didn't kill him, due to the fact that you never wanted to end up like your mother was to your grandmother. Your mother would always complain about her sad childhood, and so you vowed to yourself that you would never have a childhood like hers. And for that reason, you are no longer a suspect in my investigation. Let us move on to the maid, or should I say, Lord Quirk's mistress, Miss Peach.
Well, I was having an affair with Lord Quirk, and he promised something very special to me, which was to run away somewhere far, so I can have the life I deserved. But then, he broke that very special promise, which meant a lot to me, and that broke my heart.
If I can be frank, you are just a simple person. You wouldn't know where to start with killing a human, as you relied on him for so much. Now you are alone and no doubt without a job, given that the lady of the house is now aware of your affair. And that is why, Miss Peach, you are no longer a suspect in this investigation. Let us move on to the cook, Mrs. White.
Of course I wanted to kill him. He treated me horribly. He barely ever paid me, and when he eventually did, it would be much less than what I was owed. My husband doesn't make a lot of money anyway, and it's been impossible to provide for my children for the past few years. He also promised to give me and my family the lodge on the house grounds, which never happened, so we've also been struggling to pay the rent. Without him in our lives, everything would be happier.
You had your intentions to kill him, certainly. But I spoke to all the other kitchen staff. You find it hard even to kill a chicken. You have to get a servant to do it for you. Therefore you could never harm a human, let alone kill one. And that's why, Mrs. White, you are no longer a suspect in this investigation. Let's move on to the head of the house, Mrs. Green.
Multiple times I tried to quit my job so I could be closer to my family, but every time I asked Lord Quirk for a reference, he wouldn't give me one. He said I was so good at my job and every one of the staff liked me, so I shouldn't leave. But when I would still reject his offer to stay, he would threaten me. He said he would make up stuff about me and ensure I would never get a job again. Every time I saw him around the manor, he would remind me of what he said.
Oh, Mrs. Green, come now. We all know how smart you are. We all know that if you killed him and he was dead, you would have no option, nowhere to go. Your master would be dead and you'd have no reference at all. No, it wasn't you. You are no longer a suspect in this investigation. Let us move on to Princess Plum.
It is true that he would often hurt me and make me weak. Some days I would heavily consider a murder. I had been able to if I wasn't so frail. Everybody in this house would agree that I had a motive.
That's true. He beat you when you didn't like him. Therefore, you'd be the ideal suspect. However, you could never kill someone. You never wanted to be a single mother, due to the relationship with your own mother. No, you're no longer a suspect in this investigation. Allow me to move on to Countess Mustard.
I wasn't even there at the time of the murder. You see, I was visiting my friend all the way in Berkshire over the weekend. Her poor mother had just recently died, and the girl was going through a mental breakdown. I was helping and comforting her so that she could get through such a horrible time of her life. She was crying all day. Lucinda couldn't do anything. I had to do all the cooking, all the cleaning, everything. It's really harder for her now, especially because she has no one to care for her. I just want to do everything I can to help. Honestly, I love my son-in-law so much. I can't believe who could have committed such a disgusting and terrible crime.
So you all had your reasons to kill him. You all had your alibis, except one of you. Countess Mustard, where were you precisely at the time of the murder?
I told you I was visiting my friend Lucinda in Berkshire over the weekend.
Oh, okay, right. Except for one little thing. I never told you when Lord Quirk was murdered, and that information doesn't get released, not even to the friends and family. So what do you have to say?
Well, I had just assumed that it happened over the weekend.
Oh, of course, you just assumed. So it has nothing to do with the fact that you didn't want him marrying your daughter, because you had someone else lined up for her? So when he didn't leave, you killed him. You hit him with Miss Scarlet's doll to frame her as well. And you're dressed the colour of a goblin, which is exactly what you are, just an evil goblin.
Oh, okay, fine then. You got me.
Countess Mustard, I'm arresting you on suspicion of the murder of Lord Quirk. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention, when questioned, something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence.